Okay, this is my second take on the James Russell recruiting evaluation. Like Scott Gross, I'm not going to do a crystal ball just because I'm in on this guy and I am biased, and I'm definitely more biased on this one than Scott Gross because I did put a fair bit of time in, and I do have some issues, not really issues, but I do have some strong beliefs about the pitches for this guy. So I'll get right into it. My last one was nearly 45 minutes, so I'm re-recording to make it a little bit shorter and having done some of the stuff already. So first, I want to look at the player. James Russell, 44 height, so he's about 6'6", with potential to grow up to 6'10", I believe maybe 6'11", I'm not sure. He still can grow once the recruit closes. Strong, good at everything, great at everything really. He's not particularly good passer, he's good. Like he's a good passer, but not a better passer than he is a shooter or defender. Way better shooter, defender. So yeah, he is technically a point guard. On the sheet, he is listed as a point guard, but I don't think he's much of a point guard personally. The elite camp that we did, he was starter on the Mississippi team. That was all right. Tevin Lewis really carried them there, and he just wasn't a great distributor. Only 2.3 assists, much less than John Comis, who was off the bench getting 10 less minutes than him. Really just not that impressive. Like Chris Lester, also 44 like almost as many assists in 4 less minutes. So really not a great point guard, pure point guard, in my opinion. So this was also when he was short, but yeah, that is one thing I want to establish before talking about anything. I don't think he's a point guard. Taking a quick look at the values: 3 location from Gulfport, Mississippi, 3 pro potential with the trait that he wants to have the best basketball facilities, 4 in playing time, 0 in education, 3 in campus life, and a 3 storyline, which is he wants to know pitch him on delicious food offerings on and near your campus. So I think we'll get right into it. I'm going to try and go value by value, comparing them and ranking them. I did ranking in the last video. I might update it as I look at them in real time. So, first up, Louisville. So, Louisville has, for location, I think they're in the middle of the pack. They're closer by a little bit than Cincinnati, but I think he does a better job comparing it to home with 20% African Americans, which I don't know, like if you can know the race of people in this, but I think that it's interesting touch. And he says stuff about the Louisville to Biloxi airport, which is just 12 minutes away. So that puts him solidly in the middle of the pack. Next up, we have mine. I try and compare, using the food storyline, I try and compare it to home for him, with Raising Cane's being a Gulf Coast classic and Mississippi being the most popular chain in Mississippi, and there is one on campus. So I don't go too much into it because I know this is kind of a losing battle, considering there's also no flights from Gulfport to whatchamacallit, there's no flights from Gulfport to Cincinnati, which is something that we will touch on in a second. I do want to check really quickly just to see if there's flights from Gulfport to Louisville, because that would be kind of funny if we have 2 people talk about non-existent flights. Give me a second here. Gulfport, Mississippi. Okay, yeah, that's also not a thing. There's also no nonstop flights from Gulfport to Louisville. So, I mean, I guess that maybe is, yeah, it's not existent on Google Maps. So that does make me think that it is a little bit BS, but, you know, I guess that is just a thing that we do now, is it does not really matter if the flights exist or not, so whatever. Yeah, I don't go too deep into location. Next, we have Tulane. Tulane is down here, I think, for location. It's the closest program. They have people that are also from the Gulf Coast, and short trip, music, stuff just like when he was a kid. I think it's a really good comparison to Gulfport, his home. It's close. Tulane nails that. Marcus takes one sentence and he explains that it's a 2-hour flight north of Cincinnati, which, again, like Louisville, are non-existent flights. I don't know if Xavier and Louisville are going to use charter or private jets, but there's no commercial flights that are 2 hours for either of them. You'll be able to expand your palette while retaining easy access to Gulfport favorites. So it's a fine. LSU, also close. It's a 2-hour drive. It's a breeze. 90% of students hail from the South. They'll understand you and the place you grew up. Same music, same people, enjoy the same weather. It's pretty much just 2 lanes, but worse, essentially. It's a little bit farther. It's the same music, people, stuff. That is all. It's all good and dandy, but not as good as 2 lanes. So because of that, let's hide this. It's a bit of that might be incorrect. It might be incorrect. So I'm hiding the final scoring, and I'm actually gonna just hide these two, just because it's a bit of a spoiler. Pretend you didn't see that. I might cut out in the video. 3 location, that puts me with Tulane beating LSU, beating Louisville. That's obvious, I think. And then Xavier and Cincinnati. This is a tough one because Marcus lies, and I think he goes into it a little bit more later in his pitch, so I don't want to ignore that aspect where he talks about grease. You can get your grease fixed at Dunlap Cafe and Swamp Otter Grills for succulent burgers and fried catfish. So he does expand on location there, whereas mine is touching on home, but only in the fast food sense. And it isn't immediately obvious how close these are to campus, which mine do provide. But I think the JP would look a bit more fondly at Marcus's, just because it's a bit not like fast food. This being a lie is kind of annoying, but we're the same city, so I guess they'll count that for me too. And actually, now that I think about it, since we're in the same city, this should also kind of count for me, which I don't think they'll consider it, but I don't think Marcus has a Raising Cane's across the street and a Chick-fil-A on campus, so who knows? Because of this, I think this could be this or that. I don't want to. I'll try and be less biased and give it to Xavier on that one. Not because I necessarily think it is better, but who knows? Next up, we have Pro Potential. Pro Potential, Louisville does a good job on this one. They have a $15 million training center, 2 minutes from campus, 2 practice room, 2 training room, practice courts, a lot of square feet, and they sent another guard last year in the 11th spot to the NBL. He's a spot higher, so he can do well. Also, I just want to touch on it here. I think he does a little bit of theme. Maybe I'm uncultured. I don't really know what it is. I don't really think it adds much to the pitch, frankly. Personally, maybe the mod or maybe JP gets that, but yeah, it's the largest basketball-only stadium in the league. Crown Jewel, it's good. Louisville, great job. Pro Potential. Mine, Pro Potential. Up here, we had $100 million athletics facility, Richard E. Lindner Center. It's one of the best facilities in the country. 8 stories. Underground practice gym and weight room. The 18,000 square foot weight room is state of the art. 12,000 square foot training facility where the team practices. I give an example of a guy, Marvin Hoops, who was on my team. He's worse. He was also a worse player, but only a 4-star, which maybe if I'd included would have made me look a little bit better. But I think because of this, Louisville beats me out. Next up, we have Tulane. Tulane goes into this not too extensively. They have a 5,500 square foot center. There's a hyperbaric chamber, which is kind of neat. And then he gives a few examples of guys. I think it's good, but it doesn't really go into it as much, and it's just not the best. Next, we have Marcus. Marcus talks about his here. So we have state-of-the-art athletic site. It's 5,000 square foot, so it's smaller, nearly 30 machines. Doesn't sound that impressive. 20,000 pounds. That seems so random and arbitrary. I mean, it's not like a knock on it, but it's just funny. Cinta Center has a lot of rooms, full-size practice gym. He gives a few examples of some players he sent. I think the facilities don't sound quite as good, but the pros are good. This is a tough one, actually, because originally I had Tulane winning, but now that I look at it, he gives 2 first-round picks in the past 2 years, where Tulane kind of just names a few people. So I don't really think that helps them all too much. Maybe JP knows those players, and that'll mean more to them. But to me, I think this puts Xavier ahead of Tulane, frankly. Okay, next up is LSU. So they have $15 million, two state-of-the-art practice gyms, video balcony, and replicas of Maravich Arena. They get shot up. That will help in the game. They get the same facilities. Like, do you really want to read this? I don't know. He doesn't go into it enough in the pitch, I think, and I think that'll earn him a spot at last place. I do think I want to make a change here where I will be making switching Tulane and Xavier. I don't know if this is that crazy, but I feel like Marcus did a better job of explaining his pros, where Tulane just named some names, and the facilities were, even if not a little bit better explained on Marcus's end than on Crum's side. Next up, we have playing time. Playing time's an interesting one because this is where some just numbers-wise separation's a bit created here, where we have Louisville. Louisville, they guarantee 17 minutes a game, and possibility of 20, which sounds like a decent bit for a freshman, but will not look good once you see what everybody else put. So they did lose a lot of players. They'll play a similar role being a facilitator. Jack of all trades will come in handy. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. They're missing people. He follows through with promises, and he can get minutes. He does anti-pitch me in a weird way, saying he had two young guards, so you'll be fighting for minutes. But I don't say this, and it's because I don't pitch him as a guard, which we will see right now. For me, I pitch him for his playing time here. So here we have, I guarantee 25 minutes, and I think more importantly is I change his role a bit. He is growth spurt to 6'6", and he has potential to grow more, which could mean a lot because 6'8", like, can be a point guard, but he doesn't have point guard skills that really, like, why would you play him at point guard compared to somebody else who can pass better and dribble better? And so we have two young guards and great big. Having a do-it-all wing will let us do anything. I specify the offensive scheme we run, how it'll get him open looks, how let him have success, and I guarantee 25 minutes, and it would be insane for him to not start, which, as we'll see next, is not something that he will be doing on Tulane. It's funny, I've had some good transitions here, completely coincidental. I did not put them in order in that way. But here's Tulane. Eat on the court. Live dribble playmaking will be Mana from Heaven. It's an offense that ranked 14th in assists and first in 2064. As I said, he doesn't assist much, but they're losing elite playmakers, and but they'll have studs and defenders around him. He'll play 6-man as a freshman before leading the helm. I really think just this minutes, it makes sense for Crom. Tulane probably has a better team than most of us offering, and it makes sense that he can't offer the minutes because it could handicap him. So it's not the worst, but it does lose him playing time pretty handily, in my opinion. Then we go over to Xavier. They don't return a single point guard, which is obviously good. Playmaking ability is an elite prospect, well-rounded, primary ball handler, create your own shot, pick and rolls, create open lanes. Does a good job. A bunch of things that a point guard will do, and a little bit specifics like passing to this person, Tracy McKenzie. And he specifies on the height, which I think is something that is part of the storyline, and nobody else really mentioned how tall he was and how it's a benefit besides me and Marcus. He's not going to be limited to traditional, which is good, but boxing others out and swiping the ball, that's not like things that guards don't do necessarily. You'll be able to give your opponent food for thought after you feast on their defense, playing 25 to 30 minutes a night as arguably the most crucial part of the team. So he does the right thing with the minutes. 25 to 30 makes it sound kind of good, but also absurd, frankly. I don't think he'll get anywhere near 25 to... I mean, if we take a look at Xavier this year, like, I mean, their best player, 22 minutes. Like, we go back, 2064, the year they won it all, and 80 overall, got 26 minutes, like, one player on their team. Like, I feel like that's a bit overselling it. I don't know. He might have to be forced to some Natro-esque measures where he will have to kind of force him to play. Yeah, it's solid. Gives him a role, gives him good playing time, if not too much playing time. Next up, we have playing time for LSU, where this is a confounding one, frankly. They didn't return a true point guard. Not a single player on our roster could do what you do, Really? We'll get to that in a second. When you look at our players, we're in elite unit everywhere except for points per game and assists per game. We return one player who averaged over 2 assists per game in Reggie Brunson, but he's a small forward without your skill set. So if his skill set is being a point guard who gets assists, let's take a look at Reggie Brunson because that just makes sense. LSU. It's right there. LSU, Reggie Brunson. He's only a 60. He had 4.4 assists, which is a decent amount. You might notice the passer tag. And that's because he has a 97 in passing. A 97. And this guy doesn't have the same skill set. Yeah, he doesn't have the same skill set. He has a much, much better point guard skill set despite his atrocious physicals. Like, completely atrocious physicals. But, like, if you're looking at a guard or someone with guard skills, he has way, way more guard skills than, and, like, good OIQ, better shooter. So, yeah, he doesn't really have, he doesn't have the same skill set. He's a much better skill set. So, that's a weird one. He won't offer another point guard. So, because of this, I think at least 25 minutes, he gives the same guarantee. I don't really think he delves into as much of his game plan, I guess, as the other people that do, which is why for playing time, I gave it to me and Marcus tied. LSU next, Louisville, then Tulane. So let me think about this for a second because I kind of already forgot. But for Louisville, they didn't offer enough minutes. Tulane, he's coming off the bench. But for me, I think I give him a role, I give him minutes, and I change the role, which that might hurt me because everybody else assumes he's a point guard, and maybe me treating him as a wing will be looked at putting him out of position when I generally, truly think that he is much more suited as a wing than a point guard. Marcus gives him the same time as I do, minutes-wise, and he does spend a lot of time, like, generally giving him a role and saying what he will do. I'm not sure if it's better than mine. Also, I think it's a bit realistic for a team of his caliber, where my team's a little bit more developmental to give him that many minutes. But because of that, because of the same time, because of similar minutes and similar amount of, like, talking about the team and the role they'll play, that's why I tied us here. I think it really could go either way depending on how they look at him as a wing or as a guard, because I really should have said more about how I don't think you're a guard, because I don't think he's a guard, and I think it's kind of ridiculous. Next up, zero education. This is a tough one because we have 4 schools that don't have good education, and Tulane. But first up, we're going to look at Louisville. Louisville has, this was such a nonchalant zero education pitch. We're not the best. It's perfect for you. They show the high acceptance rate. They give a few electives. If you somehow struggle, they have tutoring. If you have to, you can even cheat on tests. I really don't care. Should be easy with such packed classes. Like, okay, go for it, I guess. It's not like it's going to kill you. But next, we have also, wow, I'm still taking forever on this. Next for me, I talk about how it'll be a piece of cake. We have a lot of students. It's shown, like, it's not an academic school as over half of the campus is taken up by the facilities. We give them a free iPad that they can play games, check socials. There's a support service that will teach you, and the Lindner Center has an entire floor reserved for academic help areas. Next up, we have Tulane, which always was a bit of a weird one coming in on a zero EDU guy, and I think he does his best, Crom, but I mean, there's not much you can do when you're Tulane. It's a safety school for people that go to Ivies, like, yeah. And then they say a couple things that are kind of just conjecture, like a bit like there's pass-fail classes and tutors, but there's no statistics really besides saying it's safety for rich people. As long as you bring in TV money and helping us rake in application fees. What's wrong with finals all being group projects with adoring fans? Like, that's just a bit, like, it's something that could happen, but it's not like a lock, I don't know. He does his best with what he has. I just think, like, comparing yourself to really great schools and saying, like, we'll just make it easy without giving any examples of how it is easy is a really good shot. But, I mean, when you look at this graph here, it's like Tulane, wow, Tulane is ranked 119 in academics by Forbes. That's insane to me. Wow. I did not know that. But when we look over at Marcus's, Xavier is the lowest ranking school in the NCBCA. They don't bring anything about class sizes, but they do say that their classes should be easier. They have GPA booster classes. So I think Marcus does a good job. He kind of brings in the GPA boosters, which every school has, but I think it is an interesting perspective coming from a not state school that's a small religious university. So I think it's solid. I don't think it's a clear-cut winner, but it's solid. And next up, Louisiana State University. Louisiana State, they are not a great academic school, and I think they do a decent job of showing it, but Princeton Review, 8th in students who study the least and 74% acceptance rate. One of the easiest universities in the nation. We aren't attracting. He has a nice shot at Tulane here, which is good. I just don't think he's specific enough. Doesn't offer much besides a few percentages and schools that study the least. And because of that, I think that puts him at 3, tied with Louisville. So I gave it to Xavier in my ranking. I think I could win too. It just depends how they look at Marcus's unique perspective on a private school pitch. LSU and Louisville were close to each other, where I think this also doesn't really... This shows a bit more with the 60% of our classes and the acceptance rate, but the acceptance rate is lower. He's telling him to cheat, which I don't think is exactly condoned or really helps his pitch. So because of that, I actually might give it to LSU. I don't know. LSU also doesn't do too much. They have a nice shot, but I don't think that helps him specifically beat Louisville. And because of that, I'll leave them tied. This is definitely in the air. I feel like there's a bit of a gap between the top two and next two. Maybe I'm wrong. These could flip. But other than that, I think that's how it is. Now we have, next up, we have Campus Life. So for KFC, the KFC Yum Center. But for Campus Life for Louisville, we have, this is a good one. There's parties, prohibition. You'll be able to party at a converted speakeasy or prohibition-based distillery, which, be illegal for him to drink alcohol. But 400 clubs, really nice dorms, attending historic Kentucky Derby, and you can go to baseball games. So that's good. I'm not going to include the food just because we'll leave that for the storyline. But, it's just a good, solid Campus Life pitch. Next up, University of Cincinnati, where we kind of phone it in a little bit. I don't want to undersell myself too much, but it does blend a bit with the storyline. Culinary Club, don't really say much else. I explained the secret dining hall, which is cool. Explain the benefits, and then it creates a tight-knit community. I'm not sure if that helps too much with Campus Life. It's not terrible. It's very not broad or varied. So I do think I kind of won't do too hot on that. We have Tulane. I like Tulane's. Tulane is like a classic, like well-written, kind of like artsy, I guess is how I'd put it, Campus Life pitch. And for his, he talks about how it looks for the first couple sentences and how it's beautiful because it's a nice campus. Then he gives a couple examples of other things, gospel choir, I Am Dodgeball, fashion show. There's so many ways to have a blast here, and I think it does a good job. And then he goes into the storyline, but I'm not going to include that. I think it's really just a good, solid Campus Life pitch. So that brings us to Marcus. Marcus tries to blend his Campus Life with his storyline, which is good. It's a valid idea. I do think he doesn't really expand upon other things kind of in the same way I do, where he doesn't give much variety. And so he talks about Chili, Skyline, and Gold Star, which, yuck, Gold Star, real Cincinnatians and Ohioans would know that. Skyline all the way, baby. And then he talks about Reds games, which beats Louisville, to be fair. So he does give some options. He talks about chili 3 times. 2-way is a chili dish, chili dog, then chili up here again. Gives him a cool market. And then he ties it into his home, too. And so I think it's a good way of meshing them, but I don't think it truly elevates it in a way where where he's missing the more traditional campus life aspect, I think, because this isn't something JP necessarily knows, and I don't like expose him, and I'm not sure if they'll know this, but like Reds games, like Ohio River, I don't know where Findlay Market is, but Reds games in Ohio River, that's like far away. Like that's not, you can't walk there. Like you can walk there, but it's like hour plus, and that's not always the best, for on-campus stuff. So there's really no specified on-campus activities or things that he includes, which does, I think, knock it a little bit. But at the same time, maybe JP thinks that Reds games are right across the street. James, and then we have LSU last. Campus Life, I really like their Campus Life pitch. It's just a good pitch, I think. I mean, it's somewhere here. It's over 2,000 acres. So this is, they talk about their dining halls, which, I think they're cool. I mean, it's not the craziest things. Like UMD has all you can eat, omelet station, pizza oven, woodstone pizza oven, and all of this. But I think it's cool he brings it up. And then he includes that as a side with the oak trees, the giant campus, the bad movie club. You can go to Cajun tailgate before every football game, unwind through arbitorium, loop and gaze at the stars. Whatever you want in campus, LSU has. And because of this, I think this really puts LSU, Tulane close to each other at the top. It's hard to pick a definitive winner, but part of me feels like Tulane's flows a bit more. Part of me likes LSU's. So I think I'm going to just... it's tough. I feel like they could be tied. One could win, one could lose. I kind of just liked... Okay, I'm back. I think I just kind of like LSU's here. I mean, Tulane, Crom is great. Also, I don't know. Louisville's was good. I feel like these all could go either way. I think Marcus and I are last. Definitely. Mine could be ahead of Marcus's. His could be ahead of mine. These three are really solid Campus Life pitches. I think Louisville doesn't delve into quite enough of the, like, what it would be like on campus. Same as Marcus, where he does give 2 examples of food on campus, but is missing, like, some of the other, like, talking about campus, and what it's like on life there. So because of that, I think that leaves us with this, where I'll tie myself with Xavier, because I think we're both... His is a bit more in-depth, but at the same time not on campus, so I think I could easily lose this, to be honest, which does lose me 2 values, which is a bit rough. But next up, we have the storyline, which I think this is interesting and hard to judge. So we'll take a look really quick here. Storyline. He talks about the food, Pie talks about the food here, like right here. Good food, sounds good, a bit basic. Like, he ties it back to home again, which is cool. I didn't really talk about this first look, but it doesn't elevate it to the same level as the ones that are actually close. I think it's a good food pitch. Not wild. Like, it's just good food, mentions a few places. Me, I think I went really in on it. I hope I win it. I'm not sure how it will read with the JP. I tried to tie in location with it. I tried to tie in a steakhouse with how expensive our facilities are. I tied in our classic chili with how since it's unusual, how we're going to change his role. I tied in our cake with how school will be a piece of cake and we'll make it sweet for him. And then I tied in the campus life with the culinary club and the dining hall they have there. So I really think I tried to give examples, like best piece of cake. It's like, who's chili and best spaghetti. It's perfect, It's just the right fit. The steak's really good. I'm not sure if I should have included, I included ranking. I don't know how much that helps, but I think we do a really good job here. And maybe I tried to do too much. Maybe if I just included a few sentences, I'd be in it. But I think I wanted to make mine the next level. So that's my thoughts on that. And then we get down to Tulane. Tulane, it's New Orleans, People are going to love it. This also, the on-campus sushi, maybe that pushes him ahead of LSU there. I don't know. On-campus sushi taqueria and kosher deli sounds sick. Sheesh. But, he Mecca of Cajun and Creole food, jambalaya, etouffee, I don't know how to pronounce that, sorry. Po' boys, I do love po' boys. I'll stake my reputation on it. You'll know the city. I just think he really passionately makes it seem great, Like, even if he wasn't from New Orleans, if Louisville spoke about it in the same way, like, so confidently, that really helps him. Marcus, he tied it in here again with his thing. I don't think it's the most amazing. Like I like it, but he doesn't really describe the food all too much. I think he just kind of says it's good. And the only really he is when he describes succulent burgers. He kind of just lists the food without going too much into the food. So it's good, but I think the other ones are a bit ahead. And then for LSU, I missed this the first time I was recording. They have an actual food pitch here where is it? This is cool. So first, Southerners take pride in their cooking. Baton Rouge, Ruth Chris's Steakhouse. Seriously, Ruth Chris? That's like a big chain steakhouse. That's not a good selling point. Sorry, but he does talk about the food. And this, I really like this angle, is he's scheduled games in Washington, St. John's, Loyola, Chicago, Seattle, New York. Gives him a chance to try other great food. I think that is a sick angle, You're giving him a chance to try other places. I really think that picks up what a lot of people didn't do. So because of that, I ended up giving this ranking. But after rereading LSU again, I do think I have to move them up. For sure. I think they go above Louisville. Because the last time I read their on-campus thing on accident. And so that is what I've done. So with this, I think this is relatively unbiased. Maybe you disagree. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think it should be a nearly fairly accurate representation. So I'm going to go into a completely arbitrary, unrepresentative of the JP scoring system that probably values people who finish last too much. But I will fix it because I did it wrong at first, and then I will revisit the video and finish it off. Okay, so this should be the updated rankings. I think I properly did the math. The way I did it essentially was I assigned the winner of a value 5, then 4, then 3, 2, 1, and then multiplied that by the weight. I know this isn't really how the JP looks at it. For the most part, I actually have no idea. They might value, they might not value people who do poorly as much, and they might just be looking at the top side. But I think it might represent the quality of the pitches and how close they are and how truly close that I think this recruit will be. Maybe I'm wrong. And I don't want it to seem biased towards me. Also, sorry, Pi, I redid the math, and I think a couple of people passed you, so now you're last. Unfortunately, I think this is relatively fair, to be honest. If you have any complaints, let me know. Again, don't think this is representative of how JP will vote, but I do just want to say, and it has me tied. I don't think I'm going to be tied. I'm shocked also Tulane is up there with losing both 4s. I think that's one of the things that JP-wise will not like that, losing both 4s. That's kind of bad. But all in all said, I'm really excited to see how this recruit turns out because I think it's realistic that all 5 teams could get votes. It just, we'll have to see how it turns out. It is a crazy recruit, and it's been a crazy recruiting cycle. Or not that crazy, but... So, hopefully you guys like the video. And maybe I can do some other ones of these. It's been a bit of a longer one. It is shorter than last time, so yeah. That's all, folks. I'll wrap that up.